What if the path to justice begins with a question you fear to ask? Not a policy, not a verdict, but a question. What if joining Socrates means joining doubt itself, long before certainty can arrive? In a world obsessed with fast answers, the ancient gadfly shows up as a stubborn reminder: if you want justice, you must first learn how to listen to what you don't want to hear. Socrates didn't team march with banners. He walked with questions, turning each claim inside out until it betrayed its own logic. He didn't promise a verdict at the end of the road. He offered a method for staying alive to the truth. And that method begins with humility. We stand at a crossroads where justice often looks like victory, or victory looks like justice, or justice looks like the loudest voice in the room. Socrates would call that confusion a kind of poison. He would say, the unexamined opinion is a comfortable seat, but a seat that dulls the senses. To join him on a quest for justice is to sign up for a daily practice, not a dramatic moment. It's to become someone who can hear a dissenting view without losing sight of your own conscience. Someone who recognizes that a good argument requires more listening than winning. The method is simple in its clarity and devastating in its consequences. Ask a question that stings because it unsettles a cherished belief. Then ask another until the idea fractures under its own weight. Not to torment, but to illuminate. Not to defeat others, but to free everyone from the tyranny of closed minds. The Socratic path is less about certainty and more about the courage to stay wrong for a little, longer in the service of truth. Let me sketch a guide you can practice in daily life. A way to join Socrates without leaving your chair. Step 1. Name the claim clearly. When someone says justice requires X, rewrite it in plain terms. If the claim is justice means punishment, ask, what counts as fair punishment? Who decides? What happens after? Then push deeper. Is punishment a means to repair harm, or a signal that we insist on conforming to a ritual of blame? The questions pile up like stones, each one revealing a chisel-shaped edge in the block of our beliefs. Step 2 is to expose hidden assumptions. The mind loves shortcuts, especially when the shortcut ends in certainty. Socrates would smile at a confident answer and then ask, but what if the certainty is a mask for fear? He would name the fear aloud: fear of losing status, fear of being wrong, fear of a future where our familiar justices don't fit. By naming fear, we unmask it, and with fear visible, we can decide what to do with it. Step 3 invites you to practice listening as a form of moral power. Justice isn't only about outcomes. It's about the quality of our listening, the capacity to hear a rival point of view and still hold your own integrity. When you listen, you slow the mechanism of judgment. You give space for the other to finish, for contradictions to appear, for better questions to emerge. In that space, truth has room to breathe. The turning point arrives when the dialogue shifts from who is right to what is right we can do right now. Justice becomes not a trophy, but a practice. It's less a verdict we grant to the world and more a discipline we grant to ourselves. If you want to be part of a just society, you must begin by being a just person in your own conversations, your own doorways, your own workplace, your own family meals where heat rises and egos flare. The Socratic method does not abolish anger. It tames it with questions until it serves a larger purpose than ego. Here's the paradox that often trips us: the more you question, the more you risk appearing indecisive. Yet indecisiveness, when rooted in self-scrutiny, can be the bravest choice. Better to appear uncertain and actually move toward a better answer than to pretend certainty and stand still as injustice advances. Socrates never pretended. He admitted he didn't know, which is the only honest starting point for justice. Consider a concrete arena, a community dispute about fair access to resources. If you approach it with the habit of "tell me why your claim is true," rather than "here's why you're wrong," you'll uncover constraints nobody wants to face: budget limits, historical harms, conflicting duties. The questions may sting. They may slow the meeting. They may demand more time than a sensational headline would allow. Yet in that slowness lies the seed of durable justice. A policy that accounts for both the letter of the law and the lived experience of the vulnerable. A policy that survives appeal after appeal because it earned its legitimacy through open, repeated inquiry. Now the twist that deepens the reflection. Justice is not a solitary pursuit, but a shared conversation across generations. Socrates himself would not claim to own justice. He would claim to be a conduit for a conversation that the city must keep having. When you join him, you join the city in being imperfect, in needing revision, in facing the possibility that your most cherished beliefs may be wrong. This is not cynicism. It is courage, the courage to pursue truth even when it unsettles your sense of belonging. The justice we seek is the justice we build together, with humility as its hinge and questions as its rails. As you practice this daily, you'll notice the mind's old shortcuts lose their grip. You'll feel a strange but real shift. The more you question, the less you fear the consequences of being wrong. If you can tolerate that discomfort, you begin to see how small acts of inquiry ripple outward. A city debates library funding more honestly. A family negotiates chores with fairness rather than pride. A workplace rewrites a policy after discovering a blind spot. The habit of questioning becomes a shield that protects people from becoming casualties of certainty. And this is where justice matures, from a momentary spark into a steady flame that illuminates the hardest choices. There's a final invitation tucked into this journey. If you want to truly join Socrates, you must learn to listen to dissent not as a threat, but as a teacher. You must cultivate the skepticism that protects you from delusion while remaining open to transformation. You must practice the discipline of repair, repairing misunderstandings, repairing harms, repairing communities worn thin by resentment and bias. The long arc of justice is not a straight line. It's a braid woven from multiple voices, each strand pulled taut by the pressure of responsibility. In that braid, you may discover a justice that none of us could have summoned alone. So what does this look like in your life today? Start with a single, honest question in a conversation you're about to have. Ask, what would a more just version of this look like? If we assumed we're all capable of improving, listen for the answer without rushing to defend your position. Notice what you learn about your own heart, the pride you carry, the fears you shield, the biases you've carried like old coats you forgot you were wearing. And then take one tiny action toward repair, something that makes room for another perspective in your circle, your neighborhood, your workplace. The goal isn't to prove you're right. It's to prove that justice is possible when inquiry is practiced with care. If you stayed with this, you've probably felt the ache of a more difficult kind of certainty, the certainty that justice is never finished, that it always asks for more from us than our ego desires to give. But that ache is not a curse. It's a signal that you're on the right road. The road that Socrates walked is not a road of certainty. It's a road of responsibility. You carry not a verdict, but a method. You carry not a final opinion, but a method of asking, listening, testing, and acting in fidelity to something larger than yourself. That is the true gift of joining Socrates in a quest for justice. It is a gift you give to your future self and to every other person who shares this fragile, hopeful world. So I'll conclude with a question to you, not a command. Will you stay with the questions long enough to let your sense of justice grow, even when the room grows tense and your own beliefs tremble? If you answer yes, you've already begun the journey. If you answer no, you've still heard a voice calling you to try again tomorrow. Either way, the practice remains. Justice, in the Socratic sense, is less a destination than a discipline, a lifelong dialogue between who you are and who you could become. And that dialogue, once started, doesn't end at sunset. It returns with dawn, ready to question the day anew. As you step away from this script, carry the habit of asking, carrying the burden of listening, carrying the stubborn hope that we can be wiser together. The best join you can make is the one that invites your own courage to show up again and again. for the sake of justice that outlives arguments and outlives time. The road is rough. The questions sometimes relentless, and the payoff personal and communal in equal measure. If that sounds like your kind of challenge, you've found your compass. The rest is practice, patient but persistent, the slow, stubborn work of